Is burnout becoming an epidemic in South Africa? Now, many, both young and old, are feeling run down, overwhelmed, and not particularly enthusiastic about their lives. Now, Judy Klipin's book called Recover from Burnout, Life Lessons to Regain Your Passion and Purpose is becoming very popular for those reasons, and she joins us now in the studio. Judy, thank you so much for coming in. Is it an epidemic in South Africa, or is it just a general thing in the world right now?
Well, I think it's definitely a general thing in the world right now, and I do think that we are particularly prone to it in South Africa because of very particular conditions that we are faced with here.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting that in a news organization where, unfortunately, so often we need to deal with the ins and outs of very, very bad news. At the core of it is South Africans who are on the other end of those bad crime statistics. They're finding it difficult because of the economy to keep food on the table, and that adds stress. There's a particular cocktail of negative things out there at the moment that's really pushing down on people, isn't it? Is that what you're sensing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everyone is under an enormous amount of strain and pressure, economically, politically, socially. And then people like you who are reading the news, I don't know how you guys do it because honestly, all day, every day, you're reading about terrible things. And I don't know how you keep your senses of humor.
Because we have no opportunity to just switch it off because it's part of what we do for a living. But like I said, there are ordinary South Africans in the midst of all of those stories dealing with even worse. What would you define burnout to be? Because there's stress and then there's burnout. What is burnout?
So the nicest description of burnout I've ever heard or read is it's having a feeling of having nothing left to give. So it's just feeling like you have reached the absolute end of your tank of petrol. Overwhelmed, exhausted, no more enthusiasm for anything, really running on empty.
Do you think that many people perhaps don't even know that they're burnt out?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of clients come to me, and they come to me for what they think is another reason, and actually through the course of the first session it becomes abundantly clear that they are also suffering from burnout.
Now, when you read about these kinds of things, one of the first things, there will be a list of things that you can do to try and get yourself out of getting to being burnt out or to end it, and at the top it's always decrease your stress levels, be less stressed. It's not that simple, is it?
No, I don't think being told to be less stressed is helpful at all, because if we knew how to be less stressed, we would be less stressed. I think we need practical tools that help us to understand why we allow ourselves to get to the point of burnout in the first place, and also practical tools to help us, what does less stress look like? So go for gentle exercise, spend time with your family, do things that bring you pleasure. When we're burnt out, we tend to conserve what little energy we have and spend it only on what we see as being important, like work. But actually what we need to be doing is spending it on things that feel meaningful to us. Work may be one of those things, but family, hobbies, pets are other things that feed us, and that's what we need to be doing to be less stressed.
Can we talk a bit about the impact of social media? That obviously is something that's come in the last more than just over a decade or so. Have you found in the work that you've done that because there is this obsession with watching other people's lives voyeuristically through social media, seeing what they're achieving, they're living these amazing lives, I need to do more of that, I need to be able to do that. Hashtag the grind is real, the hustle is real, I'm not sleeping, I'm working, look at me, I'm working from home. That's added a new element to this issue, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And I think there are two aspects to that. The one is what we coaches like to call the compare and despair aspect, which is everyone else is having a better life than I am, and I need to work harder or have more fabulous holidays or lose more weight or be more glamorous or I don't know, whatever it is. And the other is it's this constant kind of relentless competition about who's more tired and who's achieving more, and it's almost like we've made exhaustion something to strive towards, and actually it's just all upside down.
What is your advice to people then about decreasing the impact on social media, both physically and mentally as well?
Well, the obvious one is to look at it less. So limit your time on social media, and also just be realistic about it. So think for yourself, what do you post on social media? Do you ever post a picture of a really horrible meal that you've just had? Or, you know, when you arrive at your Airbnb and you thought it was supposed to be fantastic and actually it's miserable, do you post a picture of that? No. People only put onto social media what they want people to see about them. And so just take what you're seeing with a bit of a pinch of salt.
Do you think there's a generational difference in how people deal with issues around stress and burnout? I mean, previous generations, you'd just say, harden up, get back to work, be thankful you have a job.
Yeah.
Whereas, I suppose one doesn't want to always point at millennials, but let's say people who are in their 20s, 30s, and early 40s like me, there's more a focus on how you feel, that you must love what you do, and that kind of thing.
I do think that there is a difference. I think that our generation, there is more space to be kind of playing with, is this really what I want to do, and am I happy, and can I be making some adjustments, where, as you said, a previous generation, it's just kind of suck it up and get on with it. But I also think that this generation is faced with a whole lot of more complicated issues that the previous generations weren't faced with. So social media, having emails at home. You know, the previous generation, when they left work, they left work. There was no checking your emails late at night. And so while we are more in touch with our feelings and feel more entitled to feel better, which I think is a good thing, we also are faced with a whole lot more complicated things that drag us down.
Are you sometimes surprised by just how much people put themselves through before they say, hang on, there's a problem here, I need to take care of myself?
Not sometimes, almost always, yeah. People really push and push and push and push, and it's only when they reach an absolute wall often that they say something has to change.
And there is help out there, isn't there?
And there is help out there.
Okay, if people cannot afford maybe to get a life coach or to go and see somebody professionally, because that often is the case,
sure,
what can they do?
So that's part of the reason why I wrote that book, actually, because coaching is expensive, it is a privilege, and so they can go to, there are plenty of amazing resources in this country. There's the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, there's FAMSA, there are all sorts of Lifeline, there are all sorts of free services that people can access if they're feeling overwhelmed and exhausted and burnt out. There's my book that they can read.
Indeed.
I offer e-courses. There's plenty of things that people can do. But honestly, I can't stress enough that if people are suffering from burnout, it is so important to address it. Because if we don't address burnout, it can proceed into all sorts of horrible things like depression and heart disease and strokes and diabetes and really, really terrible lifestyle diseases that can be avoided.
Well, thank you so much for writing this book and coming to talk about it. Recover from Burnout, Life Lessons to Regain Your Passion and Purpose. That's the new book, and I'm sure it's going to help quite a few people. Judy, thank you so much
for your time.